Ne, není bych problema. Ne, bych problema. So, can everyone hear me? Yes. All right, thank you. Thank you all very much for being here. Welcome to this workshop. It is a workshop, so it's a good thing that you're sitting next to someone. We will be working mainly in groups of 3. Some things about me. My name is Dina Dobrou. I have been teaching English for about 20 years here in Athens and in the UK in various contexts. At the moment, I'm teaching for Evrognosi. It's an educational organization here in Athens. In the summer, I teach English for academic purposes for De Montfort University, though after what Dr. Krashen just said, I doubt that's what I'm going to be doing this year. So there's a lot to be questioned. For this workshop, I've chosen to explore with you the concept of the flipped classroom. And before anything else, can I ask you, how many of you know what the flipped classroom is all about? Okay. And how many of you have taught in this way? Okay, all right. I'd like us to imagine that we're not in this lecture theatre, in this auditorium, and I'd like us to imagine being at home. Some of us might be in our living rooms, on our sofas, always with our laptops at hand, maybe in our study, and let's watch what our teacher has provided us with. Just don't get too comfortable and fall asleep.
This is a classroom. The teacher stands at the front, and the students watch and listen. You'll recognize this because it's probably how you were taught, and how your parents were taught before you. But there are a lot of problems with this approach to teaching. You see, not all students learn at the same speed, so some get left behind. And while some students learn better by listening, others may learn better by doing. This means that teachers can't always do the best job they can. But there is another way. The flipped classroom addresses these problems and makes learning more personal. First, the teacher makes a video that delivers the content they'd usually teach in class. Then they share it online with students who can watch it before the next lesson. This leaves the teacher free to spend class time leading activities that help students apply the knowledge. Students can rewind and re-watch a video as many times as they like and come back to class with questions for the teacher. So keeping up with the class is no longer an issue. Students can access the video at any time using mobile devices, giving them the ability to learn more independently. Instead of sitting and listening, students can spend class time applying knowledge in more practical ways. And teachers are free to spend their time working with students and giving them individual support and attention. The flipped classroom model is already making a difference to students and teachers worldwide, so get involved. Discover more at flippedinstitute.org and become part of the movement.
And that about sums up the whole session, really. No. All right, we're still at home, and our teacher has also provided us with a questionnaire. It looks a bit like this. I have the larger version in a minute. I'd like you to... Did I do that? Okay. I'd like you to have a look at the questions, at the tasks. Go over them. Don't answer any of them yet. Just tell me, do you feel you can answer these? And do you feel you can remember the information from the video so that you can answer this task? Yeah, more or less? If you don't remember, what would you do if you were at home? Watch it again, go back and rewind, all right. Now, individually, try to think of the answers to these tasks. And I know we're at home, but feel free to call your classmates, perhaps Skype with them or text them, WhatsApp, what do people use these days? In our context, this means you can talk to someone sitting next to you and see if you can go through the answers to these questions. Can we move on to the next task? How would you reorder the steps to flipping a classroom? And is that okay? Do you need more time? No? Okay. And would you have any questions to bring to class? Some questions that were not answered from in the video. Perhaps think about them and maybe take a note, and we'll discuss them later on when we get back to class. We're still at home, and this is a time where we work in groups of 3. So, okay, we're all teachers. Let's see how quickly we can get in groups of 3. And can you decide among you who is going to be A, who is going to be B, and who is going to be C? Okay? All right. So who is A? A's? A's, A's, please, hands up, A's, thank you. Please turn to page 1 and have a look at this not so compelling text. So read this and prepare to summarize the content to your classmates, but don't summarize it yet, just read, okay, and prepare. Bees, bumblebees. Okay, page 2. Page 2 of the handout. And C's. Who is C? Okay. Page 3, look at the infographic and the quote and prepare to summarize the ideas presented. Just don't share anything yet. I'll just give you 3 minutes to, for obvious time constraints, I have highlighted the key points, so you've got the cheat sheet. So may I repeat, those of you in your group who are A should be reading page 1, B, page 2, C, page 3. Do you need more time? To go through the whole works of Vygotsky? What? Well, you have the infographic as well. Ah, yeah, the 27 ways of flipping. Okay? Are we ready to move on? Hello, welcome back to class. And first of all, what's the first question a teacher would ask? What? Sorry? So I welcome you back to class, and what do I tell my students? Have you done your homework? Yes. Well, I was thinking of, did you have a nice weekend? But first. But if the answer to the homework question is no, then they probably did have a nice weekend, didn't they? So have you done your homework? No. Now, who said that? And may I ask why? Why haven't you done your homework? What was wrong? Oh, I see. I see. Anyone else hasn't done their homework? Yes? Your dog ate your homework. All right. So you said something about, what's wrong with my voice? You said something about the internet? Internet issues? It wasn't working last night. So that's your version of the dog ate my homework then. Okay. Apologies. So, did you enjoy the video I sent you? Yes? No? Did you have a look at the video tasks that accompanied it? Shall we go through them and give some feedback? So, which topics are addressed in this video? Mixed ability groups, anything else? All of them? Did we actually learn how to create engaging activities? No, it mentions engaging activities, but not how to create them. Teaching methodologies, are they mentioned? These are the answers. Okay, well done, well done. What about the next one? Create a video. Yeah? And they do class activities. Excellent, that's a fantastic class, I'm amazed. Did you manage to bring any questions of your own? Do you have anything you haven't understood so far? And any questions? All right. So let us, in our groups of 3, I'd like you now to summarize, briefly 1 minute each, summarize the content you read from the 3 different pages. So A is you summarize what you've read about, so from page 1. B is you summarize the cons, and C is the 27 ways of flipping and any other comments. Okay? I'll give you 3 minutes. Now remember, we're in class now, and we are going to exchange the ideas of what has been shared at home. Okay? Hello. I'm listening. I'm monitoring. Was there? You wish you had a dog. All right.
Where the students are doing the lower levels of activities at home alone, and then the higher levels in class with the help of the teacher. Share it, and another challenge might be not everybody's going to have a computer. That's also a challenge.
No, never mind.
So they do practice.
Mm-hmm.
Through the video.
Yeah.
They feel more prepared at home to do it, from what I text. So they're not alone. It's a cooperative thing that they do at home.
Sitting over yourself.
It's okay, she knows it all.
All right. Moving ahead. Everything okay? Any questions for the teacher who's monitoring? No? It's all clear, so I can finish the presentation and we can all go home?
As a matter of fact, you have helped quite a lot here.
Hope so. Should we move on? Did we have enough time to... That's okay. What? You're not doing anything. You're lazy. You're lazy. This is the part where I come and show you what to do as a teacher. So exactly. These are questions. Yep. No computers if they have access at home. This is a question you need to bring into the, like, yeah. This is a question you need to ask later on, because this is part of you saw the idea and then you have questions. Bring them to class, okay? All right, hold on to that thought. Let's see if your questions are answered. Okay, can I ask you to, can I have your attention? We obviously have a better understanding of what the flipped classroom is, and I'd like to pause this workshop for a bit to give you some food for thought before we move on to more activities. What is the flipped classroom after all? Is it all about watching videos at home? Is it another word for blended learning? Or is it all about lecturing students with the hope of teaching them grammar? Hopefully not. And hopefully it's not all about having the students do all the work themselves unsupported. And hopefully it's no passive viewing either. It is an approach that does free up time in class, which we can use for communicative activities. And it is an approach that allows us to create make-believe situations for the learners so that we can then focus on the messages they exchange in class and monitor their production and facilitate their learning. So we can take the role of the facilitator in class. Why is the flipped classroom a buzzword of late? It's not a new approach. I mean, teachers, from time to time, we have always asked our students to go home, find something, research something, bring it back to class, show and tell activities. It's not something new. It is, though, something that appears to be like a new brand name lately. It's marketed as such, and it does have some practical applications for primary, secondary, and tertiary education, especially with large groups of students in universities. And you've also asked me about primary education. It helps a lot. Is the question, as ELT teachers, do we or should we follow the fashion? As we saw in the handouts, there is some sound pedagogical background behind the flipped classroom approach, And proponents have been saying that we've been doing it wrong all these years. I mean, teaching in class and sending students back home to do all those higher order thinking skills of analyzing, evaluating and creating, whereas the other way round, or the flipped way round, would have been more appropriate, with the guidance of the teacher in class to help the learners through their zone of proximal development in order to boost their learning. And perhaps relieve some of the burden of the parents who have to do homework with the students at home. That's another issue. Are there any drawbacks? Yes, there are. Most notably, student excuses will always be student excuses. That looks like brandy, doesn't it? Maria. So a virus hit my computer, or the internet is not working, is the dog ate my homework. We will have that, okay, for sure. A lot of time and preparation on the part of the teacher. But it's up to us to decide what to flip and when and how. And we shouldn't or needn't flip everything. Something that could be useful for our learners, something that we feel we would need more classroom time to spend with the learners, this is a good idea for a lesson, to have a flipped lesson. It doesn't teach to the test. No, it doesn't. And I'm going back to what I said earlier about not leaving students unsupported. It's not all about giving students input at home and then bringing them back to class and testing them on what they have learned alone at home. That's not how it works. However, if we are teaching exam prep classes, and I have experimented with some, I have some ideas later on that might work for a flipped lesson. Then, it's the issue of asking learners to spend more time in front of screens. Frankly, I'm not so sure about that. I think I'd much rather have my students spend quality time in front of a computer screen, which is doing something that has to do with homework, and so that they can spend the rest of their time not playing World of Warcraft or LOL and go out and play some real football as opposed to Pro Evolution Soccer or something. So this is something that I feel it's not much of a drawback in my experience. When do we flip? What do we flip and how? Just about anything can be flipped, from a lesson, a course, and there's a school in the US that have flipped their whole curriculum. So all the teachers in all the subjects, they do flipped lessons. Teacher training can be flipped. There's a link in your handouts about an educator who flips CELTA courses. And flipping a conference has even been suggested, though that's an online conference. I'm not sure how this would work for TESOL Greece, for instance. And here comes the question, what happens with ELT? Because there's a lot of research out there about the flipped classrooms for general education and not English language teaching. So this is something I'm still experimenting myself. So what happens with ELT? Because the flipped classroom revolves around the concept of recorded lectures, the mere mention of the word lecture in ELT can send chills down the spines of just about everyone in here, I'm sure, and rightfully so, because going back to the deductive approach is not something that we want to see happening. I mean, we've come this far, so it's definitely not something we want to do. As I said, having said that though, I came across a very interesting quote by a lecturer from Queensland University in Australia who said, if you can be replaced by a video, then you probably should be. That means a lot. I mean, if we can reflect on our practice, and if we ever find ourselves lecturing students about a topic or something that we want to teach them, then perhaps we could be replaced by a video, and that could be a good cause for a flipped lesson. For exam preparation classes, maybe speaking, we very often want to show students a video of how an exam is conducted. We can flip that. We can ask the students to watch the video at home, always prepare some activities for them to accompany the video because they need to be engaged. Remember, flip and engage. They need to engage with the content, So they can come back to class and we can spend the time there to have something more creative, like they conduct interviews with their peers, or maybe they can be the worst nightmare examiner for someone, okay? The writing, again for exam preparation classes, perhaps we can give students model essays, and again with some handouts with them, we can ask them to find elements of good writing. We can ask them to find certain language features that would be useful for a story or an essay. We can even prepare a presentation of what features are expected of them in an essay. And then they come back to class and we do the writing in class with the guidance of the teacher, as opposed to sending them home to do it all on their own. Grammar. I'm not so sure about that. But the British Council might know best when they have mini grammar videos on their website, and there are a lot of publishers who also have YouTube channels, and they have examples of how grammar features are used, examples and so on. So we could use that, we could exploit that. Should I be a tech whiz in order to create videos? It wouldn't hurt. But then again, there are a lot of ready-made videos that we can use. Like I said, the British Council Learn English site. Various publishers have YouTube channels. I found some random ones. I'm not advertising any publisher, I don't work for anyone. Just some random ones I found on the internet. Business English Pod, TeacherTube, TED-Ed, and MIT K-12 videos. They have a lot of interesting content, and we can, which is very much related to the students' interests, and we can use that. Now, what happens with video lectures? The point about video lectures, if we want to create them, they have to be engaging. So we have to engage the learners, and there are some Web 2.0 tools, two of which I'm going to show you. Am I going to show you? Should I? Will it explode if I click the button? No? Yes? Ah, magic.
Using video for learning is great, and there's a ton of educational content online. But let's face it, just watching a video doesn't necessarily lead to deeper learning.
All right, let's try the other one. Oh, this one works. Okay. So Educanon is a free tool to embed rich dynamic questions. Yes, please.
Welcome to Educanon. Interactive video unleashed. Educanon is an online learning platform to build and deliver interactive video lessons. It's made by teachers for teachers.
And we can embed any HTML object.
In the Builder environment, teachers can take any video content created either by themselves or a third party and transform what's traditionally passive content into an active, lean-forward learning experience for their students. By using
we can even have questions, open-ended questions.
the search function, you can select any video, such as MIT K-12 or Khan Academy, that appears on YouTube, or you can copy and paste an unlisted URL of your own.
This one's not moving as I want to. Okay, so I think you get an idea. I'm not going to go through all of it. So these are some tools that we could use to embed questions and make the lectures more engaging if we are to create them ourselves. And even if we want to use content from YouTube or Vimeo or anywhere, again, we can create the content of the questions ourselves. Screencasting tools such as Jing, Screencast-O-Matic, they allow you to select, let's say, a frame or a segment of the screen from your computer and then analyze or describe or explain what is there, and then save it and email it to your learners. My BrainShark and Presentation Tube, they both allow you to upload presentations, PowerPoint presentations, and record your voice. So this again can help in flipping a classroom. There are apps for that as well, some of which are Doceri, ScreenChomp, Show Me, and Explain Everything. I'll very briefly show you what Show Me is, what Show Me looks like. So it's a whiteboard. You click on the recording, you write Show Me, and you explain whatever you want, and if you save it, you write Show Me, and you explain whatever you want, and that's it. So again, this can be very briefly, quickly done and sent for a flipped class, for a flipped lesson. How do we share the content with our learners? Edmodo, that's a personal learning network site for students. We can upload content on wikis, and we can even have a YouTube channel and upload content there, or Vimeo. Now, I'm not techie. I don't want to use technology. I don't have technology. I don't have resources. Are there any alternatives to video lectures? How can I flip my class without technology? There are some ideas on your handouts, the ones that you had, the C's had, about the 27 ways. There's an infographic, 27 ways of flipping a class. I find there are a lot, but some of them are pretty daft, like pinning content on Pinterest. Forget it. I'm going to find myself pinning shoes and bags. Gone is the homework. So some of my favorite ones, the ones that I've used with my classes are read a blog, talk to 5 people about the topic, go find something related to the topic, review a magazine article, blog about the topic and ask for comments, visit a local museum, research, use Facebook to gather content from your peers, interview a primary source and gather content and bring it to class. These are all things that more or less teachers have been doing for many years, and they can work now as well. Okay. Another thing about not using video lectures is that sometimes graphic content can be more memorable than animations, because with animations you may miss something. Okay, you can go back and rewind and watch again, but with animations you don't invest as much mental effort to envision a process which would make the learning more memorable. At least that's what research says. Now, how can I connect and find more information about the flipped classroom and get some much needed guidance? There are 2 sites, the Flipped Institute and the flippedclassroom.org. They're, let's say, some sites that have communities for flipped educators, by flipped educators, and they're mainly related about the flipped classroom in general, not particularly related to ELT, however. Now, we've got one final activity because we flipped. We engaged with the flipped content. We got feedback from the teacher, from our classmates, but did we activate the knowledge gained? Hopefully, I know that this was pretty short and bombarded you with a lot of information, but hopefully you have an idea of what a flipped classroom is and how it works. And we could possibly use a video to prepare a flipped lesson. So I'm going to show you this video. Think about how you would use it in class. And as you watch, maybe take down notes on what language features appear and how you would exploit them. And then we'll discuss it when we get back, okay?
To think a Roman villa stood here over 1800 years ago. Just imagine that, Eric.
This is where I live. It's a big posh Roman villa because my dad's got a big posh Roman job. He's a tax collector, and it must be a really popular job because people are always waving at him. And this is my pet, Quackus Maximus. All my friends have pets. Some have dogs, cats, geese, and even monkeys. But everyone knows a duck's a man's best friend. Salad for breakfast, Quackus? This villa's brand new. It's got all the latest gear. We've got baths, hot water, glass, central heating, and mosaics. We've also got a schoolroom where I study with my own personal tutor. Unfortunately, I don't really like being the only one in the class. Sorry, sir. The duck ate it. I've got to be on my best behaviour today because Dad's big boss is coming to dinner. Him, Virius Lupus. He's the governor. And just look at all this amazing food we're having in his honour. Dormice stuffed with pine kernels, boiled pig's udders, snails fattened on milk, peacock's brains and flamingo's tongues, roast hair with bird's wings stuck on to look like a flying horse. Lucky we also have a flushing toilet. Excuse me. Dad says I've got to wear my toga for dinner tonight. This could take a while.
Eric, the governor's arriving!
Ready.
Come on in, thank you.
Oh no!
Eric, where is that son of mine?
Good job the Romans had central heating.
Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Can we get back in our groups again and try to get some brainstorm ideas of how you would flip a lesson with this video? What language elements were there? And we're going to work together on this. Hello? How was it? You're thinking, okay. I'll give you some time. After they come back to class, but what steps would you take? Like you send them the video, okay? And would you have any questions that accompany the video? Yes. Later, I'm sorry, I wasn't here. Yeah, all right. Improvising. Were your questions, the other question you had, was it answered about the primary school?
Partly, yes.
Yes.
My school has no computers. So whatever I ask for parents' permission, students do something at home using their own computers. Can I do that?
Yes, definitely.
In what way?
It
I'm thinking about using technology in my school.
They can use it, put technology in the hands of the learners. I mean, they can, you can... Yeah, yeah, of course. Exactly, yeah.
What about private tutoring? That would be better for...
Yeah, it helps a lot because usually we have less hours of contact with private students. So, yeah. Yeah. Yes, I'm mostly experimenting with exam prep. Yeah. All right. I'll let you talk and... Everything, hi, everything okay? Yeah? Ideas? We've decided? Okay. We have a couple of minutes left. Can we share some ideas? How would you use this video in your lessons to flip a class? Yes?
Well, what we said here, the three of us, is use this video and have them watch it at home, and then look at, in terms, instead of having them look at for language per se or vocabulary, have them maybe give a bit of information about what new things have they learned about the Romans. We thought the heating system, I mean, we never thought that it would go maybe that far back, or maybe toilets, the flushing toilets. So have them play with language through
Exactly.
the information they got from the video, and that would be what they would come back to the class with.
So focus on the story, as Dr. Krashen said. Exactly, exactly.
The social history, we felt that would be fun for them.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Compelling, the terms, yes, the terminology. All right, so I'm going to repeat this, said that rather than, I'm not sure whether we can use the microphone, rather than focusing on the language features, they would focus on the story itself, and they would have the learners come up with some ideas on what new things they learned from the video about the heating system, the central heating, and so on. So they would ask them to come back with information of what new things they learned. So work with the language in this way. Anyone else? Yes?
Also on that topic, to compare and contrast life in the past, like how they lived their lives.
Comparison and contrast.
The houses, how they were then, how people lived then, their houses now. But also because it presents a lot of things. This video talks about pets. It talks about the way people dress their clothes. So they could go home and
Yeah.
come back with some more feedback on their pets, what pets they have at home, what their favorite food is, because it also discusses food. It also talks about occupations. So you could also go into that area of, what job does your father do? His father is a tax collector. What job does your father do?
Yeah.
Come back with
Educational system. Yeah. This kid hates homework as well. What do you know? Okay. Newsflash. Anyone else? Any other ideas? We had some ideas about improvisation here, I believe. You said you would, excuse me, I don't remember your name. Aphrodite, yes. You said you would ask students to improvise when they get back to class. And okay, all right. So that leaves a lot of free time in class to do a lot of different things, more creative things, and we would be there for the learners. So, I don't know, are there any questions? This has been a little bit too fast, a lot of information for a limited period of time. So, are there any questions you would like to ask? Yes? Sorry? Enjoy this new approach, yes, and I find it more engaging for them in class, because a lot of the times we find students, heads on the table, and they come to class and then they're lethargic, and you want something that will pump them up. And if they find a classroom that's ready to have a debate or a discussion or a project, then they're a bit more engaged rather than us delivering content in any way that we know best, of course, but I find it's, yeah, in my experience. Yeah? I haven't used this in my class yet, so you give me a lot of ideas. I have used the TED Ed content, and a lot of them, especially TED Ed, they have deeper thinking questions and, yeah, yes. So, yeah. That's a very good question. I wouldn't really use it for, I don't know how they use technology at home, because obviously we can't monitor them when they're at home. I would say if they could be as young as you want, as long as you talk with the parents and you tell them what you intend to do, and they can be part of that at home, and they can be by them, and supervise them. They could be as young as, I don't know, even junior classes. We can have short videos and they can come to class and react and respond to it. It's content, yeah? Yes?
Numbers now. Can you tell us how often you use this technique with your students? Because I suppose you don't use it all the time.
No, no.
Okay, and how long does it take to the teacher to prepare all this stuff?
Exactly.
And how long does it take for the students to do all this thing, which it's still homework for them?
It is.
And do you
Agree.
Which is a number again?
All right, in numbers, like to your first question, I don't use it often. I use it, like I said, it's up to us to decide what to flip and when and how. And should I flip with all the classes or some? Should I flip with all age groups or all levels or some? It depends on what I want. As I said, I'm experimenting with this. I've been experimenting with this, and it's mainly with exam prep classes, some private lessons, which we said by default it's fewer contact hours than in a classroom, so it saves up a lot of time. And your second question was how much time it takes to prepare. It takes a lot of time. That's why it's not to the benefit of the student, the teacher of course, but it doesn't have to be with the Web 2.0 tools that we said, and find a video, create the questions. It takes time, but it's easier if you find something like the different ways we said, the 27 ways, and give it to them and they come back to class. Like we had 3 different texts and you came back to class and you were ready to share ideas of what you've learned. So if you can have different things distributed to different learners and they come back to class and they have a lively discussion exchanging ideas, or maybe have specific questions for those texts that go into deeper thinking and deeper learning for them. For obvious time constraints, I just asked you to summarize the ideas presented. And the third question was?
How long does it take 2 students to do all this thing, considering all the other homework they have to do at home? Because these days, this is what we hear. I don't have time to do this and that. That's what I'm asking.
That's the point. As I said, homework has always competed with the students' extracurricular activities. That's something we've always had. So if we can put technology in the hands of the learners, rather than us using it and showing them something in class, if they can have the content at home, and if it's compelling, and repeating Mr. Krashen, Dr. Krashen, so if it's compelling, if it's interesting to them, and if the questions address some let's say some things that like trigger their emotions or trigger their their curiosity. Thank you, that's the word I was looking for. They can come back to class and we can exploit all that buzz that is going to be created, hopefully. Anything else? Hope I've answered. Done? Okay, I'm being kicked out. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you. If you have any questions and suggestions, because I'm still